Hi, everybody. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you may be joining us. My name is Matt, and I just want to say thanks so much for signing up for today's session. We've got a great one for you. Today, we've got some great speakers today. On the left, you'll see Jody Murphy, who is our Director of People Operations. Jody has been just, excuse me, a key part of creating the culture here at ProviderTrust, has put such a great effort into hiring at ProviderTrust and just maintaining that culture here. And we're just so happy to have her here at PT and on the line today. We also have Jenny Gaba, who is our client care manager and has just played a pivotal role in really structuring the culture on our client success team and just building that team throughout the years. So you've got some great people here to talk to you about how honest relationships build high-performing teams. Jenny is also my wife, so I'm a little biased there, but just to note. A little bit about ProviderTrust. We are made with love here in Nashville, Tennessee. We've got a lot of partners here in Tennessee and across the nation. We're passionate about partnering with these folks, and hopefully some are on the line today. I do recognize a few names, and we're glad you're here. If this is your first ProviderTrust webinar, welcome. A couple notes I want to say is this afternoon you will receive a copy of the slides as well as a recording to share with your colleagues and whoever you think may find this information valuable. This webinar is for CEUs. We are currently waiting from the Compliance Certification Board to send us our certificate of attendance, which as soon as I will share with you guys. So just do be on the lookout for that as well. At ProviderTrust, we believe that a smarter healthcare makes a safer healthcare, and we live this out by monitoring healthcare populations to identify compliance and credential issues before they impact patients. We're passionate about that, and we're happy to bring solutions that make healthcare smarter and safer for everyone involved. A core value of us here at ProviderTrust is to help others grow and succeed, and we do this through all sorts of ways. Webinars being one of them, but if you are familiar with our resource library on our website, we do have over 300 resources for compliance folks, HR folks, SIUs, health plans, and really anyone that kind of touches credentialing or monitoring, sanction screening really in any way. We have resources for those professionals to help you learn and grow. And with our webinars, we're just happy to have these on a recurring basis and have you all show up. We want to continue to bring valuable information to you on a timely basis. So in our survey after the webinar, please continue to let us know what topics are relevant to you and what you might like to learn about next month or the next few months rather, because I'll go over some of our upcoming webinars here in a second. But we're just happy that you're able to join. We hope you learned something, and we hope you are able to grow in your role at your organization. Next month, we do have a webinar. We do have a monthly webinar series. If this is your first webinar. Next month, we will be covering interstate license monitoring and telehealth delivery, which has been requested in that survey that I mentioned earlier, and we're happy to be able to touch on this topic. And then in April, we will be talking about automation and delegation for HR leaders. And then in May, we will cover the nuances really of ordering and of monitoring, ordering, and referring physicians and how to do more with less at your organization, which is also another core value at ProviderTrust. So we hope that you are able to join those webinars in the next coming months. And again, please let us know how we can improve and make these better for you. We just want to make sure that the time that you spend with us is valuable. Today's agenda, we will start off with leading with vulnerability and empathy. Then we'll get into assuming positivity and best intentions. Then followed by high-performing team tactics, what those are and how to implement those at your organization. And then finally, we'll cover some engagement drivers to really kind of drive your team. And we'll specifically cover how praise and recognition really plays into creating great relationships on your team, and in turn having great work come out of it. So that's a little bit about today's agenda. And with that, I will pass it over to Jody to talk about leading with vulnerability and empathy.
Thanks so much, Matt. And yeah, I mean, before we dive into the material, I am thrilled to kick off the 2020 HR webinar series with my teammate and dear friend, Jenny Gaba. Jenny epitomizes what it means to develop strong, sturdy relationships in the workplace. So we are in for a treat, my friends. At ProviderTrust, we believe we cannot have high-performing teams without building honest and open relationships. This is one of our core values. The cornerstone of these relationships is trust, and trust is built through everyday vulnerability, authenticity, empathy, and conflict. Yes, conflict, get comfortable in conflict. Just recently, we wrapped up Dare to Lead in our last ProviderTrust book club, and this quote from Brene Brown, who is, I'm sure many of you have heard of Brene. She's a thought leader in vulnerability. This book directly embodies the environment we aim to create day in and day out at ProviderTrust. Might I also mention that this book is part of our HR Leader Bundle giveaway. You'll learn a little bit more about that as we wrap up this webinar, but I can't say enough about this book and what it has done for our organization. One of the quotes from the book I want to highlight here. It reads, if we want people to fully show up, to bring their whole selves, including their unarmored whole hearts, so that we can innovate, solve problems, and serve people, we have to be vigilant about creating a culture in which people feel safe, seen, heard, and respected. This quote means that your team should be able to be who they are, think the way they think, work the way they'd like to work, and not have to change their style to quote unquote fit into someone else's ideal of the way they quote unquote should be. The problem that I've seen is that most organizations promote this phrase without having a culture or behaviors that support it. It's the classic say one thing, do another thing mentality, and it's downright confusing. When forming a high-performing team, it's always important to remember clear is kind, unclear is unkind. This short quote, it also comes from Brene's book, is actually written on the whiteboard top of my desk at work. It's a simple reminder that we do our teams and employees a disservice if we feed them half-truths to make them feel better. Not getting clear with a colleague about your expectations because it feels too hard, yet holding them accountable or blaming them for not delivering is unkind. Talking about people rather than to them is unkind as well. If you or your organization truly believes that people should be able to bring their best and whole selves to work, then we need to ensure that those behavioral norms aren't conflicting with that message. Behavioral norms at ProviderTrust include vulnerability and leading with empathy. Being seen, heard, and respected is paramount to our high-performing environment. However, these things cannot be achieved without vulnerability. When we, as leaders and professionals, are willing to embrace vulnerability, to be vulnerable with ourselves, show a mistake, and own it, talk about it openly, it encourages others to do so as well. So I'm going to ask you, when was the last time you admitted a mistake to your team or acknowledged a failure or misstep? This simple but scary act creates a safe space for team members to show up and bring their whole self to work. Just recently, I shared a misstep with my team. An employee had an accountability increase and was due for a salary increase as a result. I assured the employee that they would see the increase on their next paycheck and that everything was taken care of for that to be reflected. However, I failed to document a misstep. I'd failed to document that increase in payroll. On the morning of payday, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I shot out of bed and I went directly to that teammate that morning. I made sure to address the team member directly to apologize for my misstep. Because we've worked to cultivate a strong, open relationship, she recognized it was an honest mistake and was more than kind in her reaction. At ProviderTrust, this concept of psychological safety is one that we are daily trying to permeate our walls. I'm not sure if this is a term or a theory that you guys have spent some time studying, but I would encourage you to do so. Psychological safety is the belief that you won't be punished when you make a mistake. When team members feel comfortable bringing their whole self to work, there exists a strong sense of belonging. When you belong, you feel more free to create, risk, and even fail. Here are a few tools and practices to maximize the level of psychological safety in your organization. I'm encouraging you to try a few of these. Some of these are again, tactics that we deploy at PT and have proven to be quite successful in ensuring a level of psychological safety among our team. Firstly, practicing conversational turn taking. This affords us the opportunity to provide each team member a turn to speak up. Balanced conversation where all voices get heard is a useful proxy for group effectiveness and high-performing teams. The next two kind of go hand in hand. Holding silent meetings. In this case, team members are given roughly 30 minutes to review a document or a proposal before the conversation starts. After 30 minutes of review, key points have been identified and a short, focused conversation can ensue. Most importantly here, we've given everyone a chance to be heard without worrying about someone talking over someone else. In a recent leadership meeting, one of our co-founders deployed this exact tactic. He shared with us a problem that he was facing in a document and gave us roughly 20 minutes to think through the problem before we all went around the room and shared our ideas and potential solutions. To me, this was a grand gesture by our leader because he recognized that sometimes our most creative thought leaders are shut down. Usually this is unintentionally, but we want to create a culture where it's not the loudest voice that's heard or the most politically adept, but the most right. We want a culture where all voices are heard and thoughts debated and well considered. Stay. Brainstorm and writing. This is another one that goes hand in hand with silent meetings. Introverts can get intimidated with loud, fast-paced ideation sessions. To be truly innovative, we want to be bold, to put forward the big ideas, the ones which seem a bit scary or silly. Many innovations sound ridiculous or unfeasible when first pitched. The innovation process is about taking the big, bold, ridiculous ideas and refining and iterating on them to make them work. Sometimes we limit ourselves in the ideas that we put forward when brainstorming as we filter ourselves. We are afraid of being criticized or ridiculed, so we stay in a safe zone. But the true safe zone, in my opinion, is the one in which we have worked together to establish trust with our team and leader where no idea is stupid. Finally, this is a model that I've tested on my team, practicing progressive collaboration. When presented with a problem or issue, everyone starts working alone. So first, just by yourself, taking notes, thinking through that issue. Then moving into getting a buddy, talking about your ideas, talking about what you've landed on with just one other person. Then taking those two pairs and tying them together to create a foursome. And lastly, coming together as a group. So it's this 1, 2, 4 all method that is perfect for both brainstorming and feedback sessions and allows team members to contribute both individually and working together as a team. So again, I really think these are some great tactics that you can deploy to ensure that your team is feeling safe, seen, and heard. Another thing at ProviderTrust I want to highlight, really this is a ProviderTrust. It's not a value, but it is indeed an adage that we talk a lot about. It is to be present instead of that of perfect. Perfectionism doesn't equal striving for excellence or self-improvement. It's striving for approval. Perfectionism can slowly spoil our creativity. Being a fast-paced healthcare tech company, we cannot wait for perfect. Instead, we work towards being more present, and by doing so, I promise, you'll be surprised by the opportunities that come your way. When you engage in one-to-one conversations or team meetings, put your phone away and cancel out any other distractions or noise. Remember, clear is kind. When you are of clear mind, you are able to express your thoughts and feelings deliberately and with intentionality. We do recognize that a byproduct of vulnerability, risk, and failure can be conflict. However, we believe conflict is a vital ingredient to building high-performing teams. At ProviderTrust, we are constantly reminded to follow our conflict resolution policy, a policy that we have had in place for the last 10 years. Unaddressed conflict elicits gossip and erodes culture. I recommend that each of you create a conflict resolution policy or dust off the one that might be in the handbook and put it into action. As you approach that conflict, it is critical that you go into it assuming positivity and best intentions. I'm going to pivot to Jenny as she shares more on this topic and our conflict resolution policy directly.
Thanks so much, Jody. I'm so thankful to be part of this webinar and be talking about these topics today. And equally, I'm grateful to work for an organization like ProviderTrust that values this mindset of assuming positivity and best intent. Today, I'd like to share about making this active choice in our day-to-day lives. I don't want to pretend like this is easy, but the more you practice this choice, the easier it will become. Mostly because you'll have better relationships because of it. We are all human, and we are all doing the best we can. We need to acknowledge this about ourselves and for others. Instead, we often continue cycles of blame on ourselves, or worse, we grow angry or suspicious of others. If someone disagrees with us or offers suggestions for improvement, We have a tendency of being defensive or self-loathing. We may feel threatened or criticized on a professional or personal level, and this can greatly impact our productivity and well-being. We are all capable of communicating and behaving in ways that can be misinterpreted. So if we deliberately choose a positive attitude about ourselves and others, and first identify the situational details, then take time to understand the bigger picture, many times we learn something about the other person or ourselves that we may not have expected. They may actually be trying to help us grow by offering areas to improve, or perhaps something else is going on with them personally, and they never intended for their actions or words to be a reaction of their circumstances. When you approach someone assuming positive intent, it makes it easier for them to engage in a productive conversation rather than perpetuating a cycle of negative behavior. And ultimately, you'll be able to work together more effectively to deal with the situation. But when we first start practicing this new behavior, it may make us feel vulnerable. I'm also going to quote Brené Brown here because she's been an exceptional thought leader on the subject of vulnerability. Staying vulnerable is a risk we have to take if we want to experience connection. It can be challenging to approach someone and say, "Can you help me understand that decision?" or to express how someone's words or actions made us feel. Establishing a conflict resolution policy is a key component in creating an environment where employees feel safe to have these conversations with others. When companies make a conscious decision to encourage feedback among each other, there's freedom and opportunity for openness. There should be parameters around a conflict resolution policy, though. Ours specifically outlines that you can speak to one other person about the conflict, and then it's that person's responsibility to ensure you follow through with the person you're having conflict with within 24 to 48 hours. We also state that you must approach conflict with grace, humility, and truth, seeking to resolve the conflict and move forward in the relationship. Having strong relationships and cultivating a positive environment is a huge driver and passion for us here at ProviderTrust, and we believe it's part of our success. Once an individual or company begins creating a culture of assuming positivity, you will reap many benefits. Teams that practice assuming positive intent usually are more efficient and have more collaboration because of improved communication. Those that regularly assume positive intent are more comfortable collaborating with others, and as a result are often presented with more opportunities to partner on projects or drive initiatives. Assuming positive intent lets others know you trust them, and people frequently go extra lengths for someone who believes in them. I'd like to share a few examples of how my team puts this into practice, both internally with each other and externally with our clients. Of course, in any customer service role, you will encounter behavior that is easily misinterpreted. Again, we're all human, and we often react differently when we're stressed or overwhelmed. And we acknowledge that with our clients and ourselves. We work hard as a team to have a positive posture and a spirit of empathy and curiosity. We ask follow-up questions and acknowledge when we don't understand the request or need. Internally with our team, we hold each other accountable to assuming best intent in each other and with all clients. We encourage positivity and give each other praise when we see this behavior. Additionally, we have established a weekly one-on-one cadence where we review goals and initiatives, but it's also a time to catch up about life outside of work. By establishing these one-on-ones with each team member and getting to know the person and checking in on their well-being, we are able to build trust early. It makes assuming best intent each other easier, as well as creating a safe place to acknowledge areas where growth is needed or to acknowledge any mistakes that have been made. We attribute this attitude of assuming positive and best intent, as well as our commitment to weekly one-on-ones and a conflict resolution policy, as a few ways that we strive to create high-performing teams. I'm going to turn things back over to Jody, who will outline more tactics that we've implemented to creating high-performing teams.
That's great. Thanks, Jenny. So as Jenny mentioned, here are a few of our high-performing team tactics. Firstly, we're going to talk about a new operating system that we have put in place at ProviderTrust. This system has helped our leaders run better meetings, get better visibility, have better life balance, and gain more traction with the hope of the entire organization advancing together as a cohesive team. One of the components of this operating system is to establish a weekly meeting that addresses issues. I encourage you to create a team meeting, ideally early in the week, that allows the team to identify issues, drill down on the real root of the issue, discuss the issues, and present a solution or work together to come up with solutions. As team members identify issues, let them share without any immediate comments or responses. Usually this results in calm discussion on the topic or issue instead of immediate knee-jerk reactions or the loudest people with the strongest opinions always being heard or only being heard. Similarly, carve out opportunities for anyone to be able to add anything to the team meeting agenda or issues list. This invitation creates buy-in and role importance. In addition to talking about issues, it's critical to discuss both wins and losses or failures. Several of our teams at ProviderTrust have a weekly wrap meeting that serves as a retrospective. There is no one size fits all here, but during a retrospective, the team reflects on what happened in the week and identifies actions for improvement going forward. If we've done a good job honoring psychological safety, then discussing wins and failures should not be a scary endeavor. Ask questions like, what are you proud of this week? What would you do again? What would you do if you could do something again? How would you do it differently? At first, depending on your team's personality, it might feel like some people only want to talk about their shortcomings and their mistakes from the previous week, and others will only want to highlight what's working well and what they're really proud of. Over time, I trust that these tendencies for your teams will become more balanced. A recent example of this wins and losses model came last month in our all-company meeting. We highlighted several praises, as we normally do, but we also honored one of our other values, telling the truth and doing what is good. Trust cannot be built with a fancy PowerPoint or a lofty corporate purpose slapped on your wall. Trust is fragile, hard to build, and easy to destroy. So in this all-company meeting, we told the truth around a few urgent, important issues that had emerged. This action had a profound impact on our team because we are not calling out one individual, but more acknowledging the mistakes that are bound to happen and that our quick, swift response is what matters the most. Plus, we were able to highlight all the teams that worked together to remedy the situation. It proved to be a great win-win. Another tactic that among high-performing, ever-changing teams is to hold a session where you establish working agreements. Do this anytime the team changes. This is the first ceremony for a new team and sets the tone for many, possibly all, important things. Working agreements are a simple, powerful way of creating explicit guidelines for the culture you want for your team. They are a reminder for everyone about how they can commit to respectful behavior and communication. I recently sat in a working agreement session, and it proved to be a great exercise in reinforcing the definition of what good work looks like. Finally, we believe it's critical to capture how your team members are feeling week to week. We do this through our quick, light touch weekly pulse. There is so much tied to a person's overall engagement with your organization. Our pulse aims to get at the areas that we as leaders and culture ambassadors need to spend more time on. We identify these as our engagement drivers, and we have 8 of them. So if you were in our last webinar, we did talk about these particular engagement drivers. These are the ones that we've carved out as a people operations team at ProviderTrust. We believe if we're doing each of these drivers well, then we are going to have a high-performing, engaged team. Meaningful work. Are the activities that your employees are doing, is it giving them a sense of purpose every day? Do they have autonomy in the decisions that they're able to make and the actions that they're able to step forward into? Are they being recognized and praised for great work, great efforts, great thought leadership? Do they have opportunities for career growth? Are we as a company embracing employee wellness? Are we allowing space and opportunities for our teammates to have good healthy choices in and around this space? Do we have supportive managers? All of these examples that Jenny and I have spoken to roll up to supportive management. Do we have trust in both our direct leaders and our managing partners to make the best decisions and the right decisions for the organizations? And are we pursuing everyday honest and open relationships? So each week you'll see here in the pulse, we have it's very quick, it's very light touch. We built this app very recently, but prior to that, we simply used Google Forms. So you yourself can easily create this by in a free mechanism in Google Forms. But the Pulse gives us great, useful, real-time feedback from our employees. We measure everything from participation, productivity, and what we call our team's heartbeat. We get at our heartbeat by asking how our employees feel at work each week. That's on an 11-point scale with one. When somebody reports a 1, they are feeling absolute and utter burnout. And when they report a 10, they report having an immense amount of pride in the work and purpose in the work they're doing. We also ask 2 open-ended questions every week. Each of these open-ended questions are tied to our engagement drivers. Just recently, we asked our team, how have you grown and what new things have you learned? We're halfway through the first quarter, and we just thought, this is a really great time to capture some of this data tied to career growth. Additionally, we wanted to know who at work has encouraged our team's development. In a lot of cases, we saw a lot of the directors of those teams highlighted, but in many other cases, we also saw leaders from other teams helping drive and encourage support amongst other team members. So that to me was a great question, because in some cases as well, it might be a peer. You may find that there are peers in your organization that are doing a tremendous job encouraging others. And I will tell you that that is a person that you would likely want to tap as a future leader. While all of these drivers are incredibly important to us, I believe the one that most strengthens our relationships with others in the workplace and our relationship with ProviderTrust as an organization is that of praise. Jenny is going to highlight the many ways that we celebrate each other at ProviderTrust.
Thanks, Jody. Giving praise and recognition is essential to high-performing teams. I know I'm more motivated and encouraged to work harder when I have colleagues who acknowledge and celebrate my efforts. Few ways as a company we give praise during our all-company monthly meetings. Whenever someone is celebrating another year at ProviderTrust, we poll directors and teammates to share feedback and praise for that individual. During that meeting, we also share praise and comments that come out of the weekly pulse. In addition, we have a public Slack channel, which is our company's internal messaging tool, and we have a dedicated channel to praise, which we call PT Praise. This channel allows team members to voluntarily share shout-outs and recognize good work in each other. This includes celebrating when someone grinds all the coffee beans for the week to accomplishments on demos, development work, or client engagement. Specifically for our client success team, we have a client feedback channel, which allows the whole company to see the comments and ratings our clients give us. This includes both good and bad feedback. However, feedback is a gift, and we learn and get better by knowing where we need to improve. This allows our team to celebrate each other when we get great comments from clients and encourage each other if we get hard feedback. Overall, it's been a great way for us to praise and support one another's accomplishments. Just recently, an employee shared this comment with me. I always feel so appreciated and encouraged when I receive PT praise. There are some days that are really tough, and I'm not always sure that I'm moving the needle. But when my efforts are recognized, I feel that much more encouraged that I'm doing the right thing and to keep working hard. Again, praise and recognition is so important to keeping employees motivated. There are lots of different and creative ways you can do this within your organization. These are just a few ways it's worked for ProviderTrust.
Great, thank you, Jenny and Jody. That does bring us to the end of today's presentation, but just wanted to leave you guys with a couple things. This is what great relationships at work and a great culture looks like. Again, kudos to Jody and Jenny and everyone else really here at ProviderTrust that focuses on building those strong relationships, and really they turn into friendships. But just to give you guys a little taste of the personalities here at ProviderTrust that we are so lucky to have and share this space with. And when you do it well, you're rewarded for those efforts. We have one best places to work. Not to brag, but we really do focus on it and are very proud of that here at ProviderTrust. One thing I wanted to tell you guys, for our HR folks on the line today, we, in celebration of Healthcare HR Week, mid-March, we're having our first HR giveaway, where we're going to you guys register, and we're going to pick some select winners to get some great books on team building and some other tools, some icebreaker tools, some organization tools, really with a focus to help you all extend, empower, and invest in your team. With that, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I did see a couple come in here over the course of the webinar that we will be sure to get back with you. Just reach out to us with any questions that you may have. We'd be happy to help in any way that we can. Again, you will receive a copy of the webinar slides and a recording this afternoon. Be on the lookout for your CEU certificate down the road. For those compliance folks, that is a compliance certification board certificate. We're working on it for you HR folks, so please hold tight on that. But please just let us know how we can help, and please fill out the survey so we can make sure that we continue to bring value to you guys in this time. So thanks for spending it with us, and we hope you have a great rest of the week.